So yeah, I had to get some help with covering this one considering how far behind I was, so either those recaps will be out before or after this video is released. But anyway, stick around because mainly my theories will be towards the end or throughout this video. So let's dive in. So the finale picks right back up from where Juliet was telling Patrick and the hacker Danny that they're being lied to. At this time, Juliet asked Danny if it's possible to get the Jane Carmody cleaning video up on every computer in the silo. But he tells her that to do this, they need to get to a signal booster, which is located on every 30 levels in the silo. So her, Patrick, and Danny go to relocate immediately because Juliet tells them that Bernard will soon find their location because he's better than Danny. Then we cut back to Bernard, who has indeed found their location. They all escape in the trash chute to once again lose Judicial. At this time, Robert is pulled away because he receives a message from Jean, who's a raider, who tells him that she had to deny Paul entry to Juliet's apartment because he wanted to investigate. But Robert sent Paul home for the day because he felt like Paul allowed Juliet to escape, and he wasn't happy that Paul refused to go home. In this scene, Robert also points out to Paul that he can see that he has the syndrome. Then we cut back to Juliet and the group at the signal booster hub on level 126, where they plan to broadcast what's on the drive to everyone. Up in the secret IT area, Bernard orders the team members to look away and close their eyes once the broadcast goes up. Then Bernard immediately jumps on the control panel. He performs some quick coding tricks and shuts down the broadcast. Afterwards, Juliet, Patrick, and Danny split up because once again, their position has been compromised. Back with Bernard and the others, he tells his team to unsee what they just saw. And this secret video is really making the rounds, as we can see. It's being exposed to more people in the silo. Robert is later notified that the raiders have caught Patrick and Danny, but Juliet is still on the run. Bernard later discovers that she is using the trash chute to get around undetected. And then he orders deputies to throw larger items down the trash chute to flush her out. She's eventually forced to let go and falls to the bottom, and conveniently lands on a nice soft pile of junk, where she lands unconscious and is quickly moved off the pile before she is crushed. In the down deep, Juliet is saved by her friends, but Knox alerted Judicial that they have her since he feels like they had nowhere to hide her, and that everyone in the down deep would have suffered if they had chosen to help her. Bernard and Robert soon arrive in Mechanical to take Juliet into custody, and as he destroys the hard drive, he tells her that she would have killed everyone in the silo if she was successful at showing them. Bernard decides to offer Juliet a deal to prevent a rebellion and to prevent from punishing her friends in the down deep. He tells her that she has to agree to go along with the notion that she did ask to go out. Although she didn't, she has to agree to it, and she has to waive her right at a judicial hearing. She does agree and tells Bernard to tell her the truth about what really happened to George. As Juliet is being escorted back, we cut to Martha and Shirley, as Shirley expresses how she's upset with Knox for not doing enough to protect Juliet. She also says that Juliet stealing the heat tape was what pissed them off in the first place. Then after Shirley leaves, we see Martha heading over to grab the heat tape off the shelf. And once again, we see them obviously hinting at the fact that there is indeed something special about the heat tape. And also at this time, we see Martha finally leaving her apartment for the first time, and it seems that she has a plan to save Juliet. She goes to visit an old friend named Carla, who works in supply. And here is where we find out that Judicial doesn't like the heat tape that Martha makes, and that they prefer not to use hers, although hers is better. In this moment, Martha tells Carla that it doesn't make any sense, unless it does. And she's basically hinting at the fact that maybe they're trying to sabotage people when they send them out with that particular heat tape. But we get into that more later. Then we cut back to Juliet, Bernard, and Robert, where we see them taking her to the secret surveillance area behind the janitorial closet. Here is where they show her the video of George, and it was confirmed that he indeed committed suicide because he assumed that Judicial would torture him until he told them the location of the hard drive. Next, we see Juliet being measured for her protective suit to be sent outside. We also briefly cut back to Bernard and Robert, where Bernard basically tells him that he's going to reconsider allowing him to become his shadow, which means he'll be next in line to get Robert's job, which is pretty much the person who's really in control of the silo. Back in the holding cell, Juliet's father pays her a visit so they can say their goodbyes, and he asked her why did she say she wanted to go out, and she is unfortunately unable to tell him the truth, and how she never said she wanted to go out because there is a camera pointing in her face. Back at IT, Lucas is brought back to see Bernard, where he is then sentenced to the next 10 years to go work in the mines. which is basically pretty messed up because he did all of this and he didn't get anything out of the deal. He did find out the truth, but I don't think he really cares about that. Now he's being completely punished because, I don't know, he was used by Juliet. It's pretty messed up. In the next scene, we see Shirley visiting Juliet to also say her goodbyes, and she brings her a box of hush puppies from Martha, since last time Martha sent some, Hank basically ate them all and only saved Juliet one. Juliet finds a note inside the box that says, "You wanted the truth is I love you, have no fear, they're good in supply." Then we cut back to Paul where he tells his wife that Robert knows that he has the syndrome and that they are going to grant him an exemption and he will eventually be sworn in once Juliet is sent out to clean. So they're still going to give Paul the job because Paul is a loyal little puppet. In the next scene, Bernard goes to see Juliet where he basically tells her that he wished that he didn't have to do this and how she was technically a mistake in the first place because her parents weren't supposed to have kids. That's just disrespectful. Bernard tells her that she became a threat to the silo once she began to look into George's death, and he kind of explains to her in a cryptic engineer type of way that adjustments had to be made to keep the silo safe. But none of this is really making sense at the moment because of the cryptic way Bernard is speaking about everything. She goes on to ask him why won't he tell everyone that the display is a lie, and to tell them about the large door beneath the silo. But he doesn't answer, and of course this is because they are saving these details for the big reveal at the end. He just tells her that she has attracted the largest crowd since Holston went out to clean. She tells him that she won't clean, and he just responds by saying no one ever intends to, but they always do. Then he hands her Sheriff Holston's badge. In the next scene, we see Juliet suiting up and everyone is gathering around the window in the cafeteria. Bernard reads her the pact and asks her if she has any last words, and her last words are, "I am not afraid." Then we see Juliet in her last moments in the silo before the doors open and she is sent outside. She steps out and it seems to be the same old routine, where from the cafeteria we see a wasteland, but from Juliet's point of view it looks beautiful outside. Then she looks up and sees those birds flying past again in the same formation, on the same side, the same way it has looked every time we've seen this visual. So we already know that something isn't right. Then Juliet walks over to the sensors and she holds up her rag to clean, and then she doesn't. She just drops it. Robert asks Bernard, what do they do now? But Bernard tells him that it won't be much longer, and how she'll be done before she reaches the tree. Juliet makes her way to the tree, and she stumbles and falls, and it looks like things are playing out as usual, where people just normally fall and tumble over and die. But then we cut back to her perspective, and it becomes clear that what she feels and what she sees isn't the same thing. She takes her hand and reaches out to touch what she sees, which seems to be the beautiful ground and the grass and all, and it seems to be some type of augmented reality hologram image, which her hand just goes straight through. Instead, what she feels is Holston's body, and she realizes that what she sees is fake. She takes out Holston's badge and she lays it on what she assumes is his body, because in this moment she still can't really tell if it's his body or not, but she knows because she feels it, although she can't see it. At this time, Bernard realizes that she knows the truth and leaves the cafeteria, and we see Juliet get back on her feet and she continues to walk towards the hill. She looks down at her wrist and she sees Martha's tape, and now she knows what she meant by "they're good in supply," because they used the good tape and not the tape that Judicial would normally use to sabotage everyone. She gets to the top and sees a beautiful vista that she knows is basically fake. And during this time, we cut back to Bernard where we see him running to the server room and he uses the number 18 key to access it. He steps inside and we can assume that he flips some sort of switch or something. Although we don't actually get to see this, we know he does something, because then we cut back to Juliet's perspective and we can see that beautiful augmented reality image fade away. And now she just sees a complete wasteland, which is actually the image they've been seeing from inside the silo all this time. They've been seeing the truth. Everyone inside the silo are shocked as hell to see that Juliet survived, and then the finale ends with a massive view of her outside where we can see an old withered city in the distance, and the even bigger surprise is that we see more silos surrounding her, where there are tons of other colonies. This is a pretty crazy and exciting finale, especially for someone like myself who has not read the books. Also, if you have read the books, please don't post any spoilers about the story in the comments, because this is one of those stories where I don't think I'll read the books right now, and I'll experience the show adaptation instead first. But anyway, I'd like to get into some theories about where I think things could possibly go next season. So first, I doubt that we're going to figure out what happened to the real world immediately. I won't be surprised at all if we don't figure out what caused this in the real world in season 2. I think next season is going to be about discovering if others are still alive in the other silos, and I think there's going to be another rebellion for sure now that everyone sees that Juliet has survived. Also, I wanted to comment on something real quick as to why the silos were using the display, because I think that could be confusing to some people. And the reason why I think the silos were using the augmented reality image when they would send people outside is so they could die in peace. They wanted their last moments to be serene when they sent them outside, because these are still very humane people. They're not really sending them out to clean, to just kill them, for the fun of it. They're actually doing it so they can keep everyone else safe. So they don't really have any true malice towards these people. They just want to follow these rules to keep everyone safe. So when they send them outside, they want their last few moments to be serene and they want them to go easy. That's why they sabotage the tape. And they show them this beautiful image, so that's the last thing they'll see when they die. But certain people in the silo had discovered this augmented reality image, and people were starting to believe that that was what the outside really looked like. Some wires were basically getting crossed, and that's what caused this type of situation and what will possibly also cause another rebellion. And it's kind of weird, that they just can't tell them this, I guess they can't, but it's weird. They're in a tough situation where they just can't tell people like, hey, this is just what people see in their last images. I mean, it would ruin it, right? For people to know that their last few moments of what they're seeing actually isn't real. It would be way more blissful for people to believe that it's real than not to believe it's real. So yeah, it's basically like a humane type of way of killing someone is pretty much what they're trying to accomplish. And honestly, if you think about it, this whole situation just could have been avoided if they just didn't even bother with creating this whole beautiful display, and it just allowed people to see what the world really looked like all the time. No matter if you were sent out to clean or if you're just from the inside in the cafeteria, and that would pretty much kill all of that confusion. But I think they just kind of brought this on themselves by creating that, which is, like I said, it's humane to do that if there's no malice involved with the way they want to penalize people for breaking the rules. But at the same time, it wouldn't create all of this confusion that happens to be happening currently in the silo. Also, I'm pretty sure a lot of other people may have already figured this out, and I do think it's pretty clear, but I think the underground door in the silo is a way for other residents from other silos to come across to see each other. If they built multiples, then it kind of makes perfect sense. If they were expected to not be able to set foot above ground for a while, they needed some way to get over to each other. Anyway though, those of you who are watching this show right now and you haven't read the books, let me know what your theories are surrounding season 2. Also, if you have read the books, then I would like to know if this season has been accurate so far with the source material. But no spoilers about future events. Seriously, it'll be deleted and you'll probably get blocked from the channel. Just saying. But I'd like to know what you guys thought about season 1 of Silo. I think it's very interesting. And like I said, I'm going to hold off on reading the books because I want to get the show experience right now. I like this adaptation. But let's discuss down below, and thank you guys for watching.